The number of rhinos poached in South Africa in the last 6 months has fallen by more than 50%. This was helped in part by travel restrictions resulting from the COVID-19 lockdown. Minister of Environment, Forestry and Fisheries, Creecy, joins us to give details on this particular story tonight. Minister, good evening. Is it correct to attribute, the halving of the numbers that we are seeing in poaching to lockdown restrictions?
Good evening and greetings to all your viewers. Yes, I think that the dramatic decline in rhino poaching that we've seen over the last 6 months, from 366 animals in the same period last year to 166 this year, really is an indication that the restrictions that exist on travel and also, of course, the closure of our borders has assisted us in the battle against rhino poaching. But I think it's also important to say that we have seen over the last 3 years a steady decrease in poaching, and we can ascribe that to the very integrated manner in which we are combating this particular crime. On the one hand, we've got our rangers who are working day and night on the ground. We have good cooperation with the South African Police Services. We have good cooperation with the Department of Justice. And we've recently seen a situation where there have been significant sentences given to rhino poachers. We've also seen great cooperation with SARS. You will recall about 2 weeks ago, there was 115 million rands worth of horns seized at OR Tambo International Airport. And I think all of this joint cooperation is making sure that we are seeing a systematic decline in wildlife crime in general and rhino poaching in particular.
And Minister, some concerns have been raised as well around the safety of the poachers themselves. What is being done here to ensure that they're also just as safe as they're trying to, guard the rhino?
I think you mean the safety of the rangers, not the safety of the rhino
the rangers,
poachers.
pardon me, yes, the safety of the rangers, pardon me.
Yes, I mean, obviously our rangers are extremely brave men and women. Friday was World Ranger Day, and it's a moment when we pause and we pay tribute to these men and women who are working under extremely difficult and dangerous conditions across our country. I did have an opportunity in the not-so-distant past to visit the Kruger Park and to see for myself the incredible work that they do. We obviously have air support in the battle. We have dogs that are working on the ground, tracking poachers. And these combined operations are very difficult, very dangerous. Pursuit operations often last 10, 12 hours in very searing heat. So you would understand that those who are involved in this battle are indeed sacrificing for the biodiversity of our country and for the future of our tourism industry.
And let's look at the demand. When these poachers are arrested, where are they, usually taking these horns? Where would you say we're seeing an increase in demand of the horns?
Well, we do know that there is a demand in the east, and we know that Vietnam is one of the destinations for these horns. There has been appetite in China, although we do have fairly good cooperation with the Chinese authorities in enhancing public education around this particular crime. I think that it is a shifting demand, but primarily it would be in countries in the East.
And what has been the partnership with, not only some of the government, agencies here, but partnerships with the private sector as well? What has been the partnership been like to ensure that we also, it also contributes to the decline in the numbers and even a sustained approach?
Well, I think the private sector gives us considerable financial support We have a petroleum company that would be financing the cost of our air support and air patrolling. We obviously have donations that would be being made by the private sector and by former rangers and what we call honorary rangers. And a lot of these donations are really important because particularly during these very difficult times, these donations involve food and other forms of support to communities who live in the surrounds of the park. One of the very tragic aspects of this particular trade is that while the people who make a lot of money and who get very rich are high up in the syndicates, the foot soldiers are often young people from villages surrounding the parks who are tempted by the lure of money, but who often land up facing stiff jail sentences and not really making significant money from their activities.
And what about, sadly, some of the staff members themselves that then are bribed, by the poachers themselves in order to gain access or to even know where the rangers are, in fact, patrolling to try and keep the parks safe? Have you seen a decrease in those as well? Is that still a concern?
Look, I think in any criminal operation, there is always intelligence that is gathered by those involved in the syndicates, and that intelligence often comes from inside. Of course, we ourselves conduct our own counterintelligence operations to try and identify sources of information. And although I don't have any recent statistics on this, I do know that in the past there have been disciplinary hearings in this regard, and even criminal cases that have arisen as a result of this.
And Minister, I can't let you go without asking you this question. We have been seeing a lot of concerns around, apparent corruption when it comes to PPE tenders, when it comes to, some of those resources that are meant to be directed to the poor. What's your reaction to such reports tonight?
Well, I think that first and foremost, one has to say that any form of corruption, particularly corruption that benefits from the terrible suffering of people as a result of this pandemic, is quite heinous. I think that obviously one would want to see the strictest action taken against anybody who is convicted of unlawful activity in this regard. We ourselves have made all information about our protective clothing and other aspects of PPEs that we've purchased as a department. We've made that available to Parliament. And if at any stage it is brought to our attention that there has been misdemeanor in this regard, we will act, and we will act strongly.
And do you think that there hasn't been enough action in the past, which is why there is not much of a deterrence?
Well, I can't generalize about these things. I can only speak for my own department, and I can say that those who engage in financial misconduct, we will take action, and if necessary, we will also report criminal cases.